Your teen requested a ride, but this time not from you. It's through their Uber teen account. You drive your teenager around, a lot, to their friend Jacob's house, their other friend Jake's house, to James's, to Jaden's, to Jalen's, to...
Mom, this is Jake's house, not Jacob's.
Now with an Uber teen account, your teen can request a ride under your supervision. They'll ride with a highly rated driver, and with live trip tracking, you'll follow along the whole ride to their friends' houses that all sound the same. Add your teen to your Uber account today. See app for details.
Bye, Mom.
This episode is brought to you by Merrick Pet Care. For over 30 years, Merrick has crafted high-quality dog food. Since our founding in Hereford, Texas, we prioritized whole nutrition, with deboned meat, fish, or poultry as the #1 ingredient in every dry dog food recipe. That's why we say real is our recipe. Real ingredients and home-style flavors your pet loves, all to fuel more real time together. Look for Merrick online or in your local pet store.
The Dental Download podcast is your source for insight from conversations with fellow dentists, specialists, and leaders in the industry. With new episodes every Monday morning, I'm your host, Dr. Haley. Let's get into this week's episode.
Okay, everyone, I have a very exciting guest on the show today. Would you just mind introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about what you do?
Sure. First of all, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. So my name is Jason Auerbach. I'm a board-certified oral maxillofacial surgeon. I practice in northern New Jersey in a town called River Edge in a county called Bergen. I started my practice here, Riverside Oral Surgery, in 2007 after completing my residency at SUNY Downstate Medical Center, Kings County Hospital in Brooklyn. Built my practice to 10 or 11 locations, and I'm now in the process of really kind of developing and building a platform called Max Surgical Specialty Management. We now have 22 offices in 4 states, Vermont, New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania, and our focus is to really redefine the space. We've had a really good time doing it, and we are doing very well right now, so that's kind of where my focus is at this minute. I'm also on Instagram. Some people know me as Bloody Tooth Guy.
Yes, definitely. So breaking things down a little bit between the different ways that you spend your time between clinical and then your business pursuits. Clinically, looking back, when did you know I want to do oral surgery?
That's actually a great question. I went to dental school. A lot in my life has I feel like happened to me. Like I found myself in situations that yielded the outcomes that ultimately, of course, I played a role, but I feel like I ended up going to dental school because I met a guy the first day of undergrad who literally walked into my room, whose father was an orthodontist. And sophomore year of undergrad, we started talking about going to dental school, took the prereqs and did what I had to do. When I got to dental school, I figured, you know what, maybe I'll be like a fancy cosmetic dentist in New York City. I grew up on Long Island. I was living in New York City. I was at NYU. And so I figured that was kind of the right route for me. But the fact of the matter is I found myself down in the oral surgery clinic, which at the time at NYU was in the basement. I met a guy named Clarence Kalman, who was an attending in the undergraduate oral surgery division, and a woman who's now running the Bellevue program named Basiliki Carlis, both of whom were mentors of mine, took me under their wing, exposed me to what I at that time thought oral surgery was, which was exodontia and some minor dental-alveolar surgery. And I found that I had an aptitude for it, and I developed a passion for it very quickly. And kind of the rest is history. I ended up, training, like I said, in Brooklyn, and have had an amazing career so far.
Raise your hand if you've been putting off getting disability insurance. Jim Kachmar from Doctors Disability Specialist can help educate you about your options. I have personally worked with Jim to ensure that my strategy is appropriate for me. He took the time to explain key terms and make me feel really good about my decision. If I were to describe Jim in a few words, I would use knowledgeable, kind, and collaborative. Jim can be reached via email at james.kachmar@ddsteam.net, or you can call him at 207-671-2216. His website is www.ddsteam.net/team/Jim-Kachmar. Reach out for a no-obligation complimentary consultation today. No compensation was paid to this client for their testimonial. Their experience may not represent the experience of others nor predict future results. Thank you again to Doctors' Ability Specialists for working with me on this episode. And as you go through dental school, you start to take classes on what oral surgery is all about. And as you said, it's a lot more than just taking out teeth. So how did you know that you wanted to specialize versus just doing oral surgery work that a general dentist can do?
So I don't want this to come out the wrong way, but I believe wholeheartedly that, in order to really be the best at anything, you need to focus on that. Even within the specialty of oral maxillofacial surgery, which is, if anyone's ever heard me speak, and there are a few people who have heard, I really believe oral maxillofacial surgery is the best specialty in all of healthcare. I mean, medicine, dentistry, anything. And I think the beauty of oral maxillofacial surgery is that it offers so many different types of kind of subspecialty work: cosmetic facial surgery, microvascular surgery, TMJ surgery, cleft and craniofacial, of course, dentoalveolar, and so on and so forth. I have found a real niche and a love for dentoalveolar surgery, dental implants, bone grafting, and kind of the standard stuff. Despite having been trained in the full scope, I don't really do orthognathics anymore. I don't really do a lot of other types of reconstructive work. So for me, I mean, just to kind of answer your question directly, I feel like do what you do really, really well, be well trained in it, be able to handle anything that comes your way. And I thought really the only way to do that was to specialize, in my opinion.
Definitely. And in terms of general dentists referring procedures to specialists, what would you say is some good things for people to focus on to have a good relationship with their specialist?
I actually look at it the other way. I think it's really the responsibility of the specialist to kind of yield a positive relationship with his or her generalist, his or her referral sources, if you will. And I think that it is incumbent upon us to have an open and honest line of communication, be available, be transparent, be collaborative. These types of things which yield really positive outcomes for the patient, also yield really positive things for the relationship. So I'm 50 years old. I've been doing this. I've started my practice in 2007. I finished training in 2003. I'm very fortunate to have many very strong relationships with referring doctors, and many of them come to me for advice or guidance, whether it's something dental clinical or business or life, and I go to some of them for the same kinds of things. So I think kind of the number one thing is an open and honest line of communication. Like, you develop a relationship that's based on trust and based on really transparency and being there and all of those things that make for any kind of good relationship in anything that you do in life, friendship, courtship, whatever it is. So that's my answer.
This episode is brought to you by Merrick Pet Care. For over 30 years, Merrick has crafted high-quality dog food. Since our founding in Hereford, Texas, we prioritized whole nutrition, with deboned meat, fish, or poultry as the #1 ingredient in every dry dog food recipe. That's why we say real is our recipe. Real ingredients and home-style flavors your pet loves, all to fuel more real time together. Look for Merrick online or in your local pet store.
Earning your degree online doesn't mean you have to go about it alone. At Capella University, we're here to support you when you're ready. From enrollment counselors who get to know you and your goals, to academic coaches who can help you form a plan to stay on track. We care about your success and are dedicated to helping you pursue your goals. Going back to school is a big step, but having support at every step of your academic journey can make a big difference. Imagine your future differently at capella.edu.
And over all these years of experience, you said you now have multiple practices and you're even expanding beyond that. What was kind of the first acquisition like, or if you did a startup, and how did you decide you wanted to keep scaling things?
Yeah, so that's great. My story is, I guess, kind of interesting. I started off as an associate for two of my attendings in residency. They practiced in Manhattan, and again, I thought that was like, it is, I mean, I still believe it's the center of the world. But the fact of the matter is I practiced as an associate for them. The end of the first year, they sat me down, they offered me a partnership. I didn't love a lot of things about that practice. Very special people, great practice, great quality work. It just wasn't the right place for me. So I started working in New Jersey, and I was working for a guy. I started working part-time, and I eventually worked to be a full-time associate. And it was kind of a typical story where, you're promised partnership, and then maybe as things go on, things don't turn out the way that you would have hoped that they would turn out, which actually for me turned out to be the best thing ever. But during the time that I was going through, it was highly, highly anxiety producing for me. I was just I would just move to New Jersey. I had my second daughter was born, bought a house, and now I'm in a situation where I have to start a practice. So I was working itinerantly. Fortunately, as an oral surgeon, you can do that. I was working in 9 different offices. I found space. Actually, this is where I'm sitting right now in River Edge. A friend of mine found the space for me, actually, Ross Levine, the best. Thank you. And so we found the space, we got renovated it, and within a few months, we were seeing patients here. And then within a year, I was basically done with all of my day jobs, if you will. So I started that practice, and for many years it was just me here. I actually bartered the second floor of this current office with an orthopedic surgeon who needed a full upper, full lower arch of implants. So I got his space, built the space, my footprint of my first office, and then I hired an associate. So I started from zero. Well, I started an associate, then I started from zero, then I had an associate. Then a couple of years went by, and I had this concept that I could take what I had built here and duplicate it if I could put the systems in place that would allow for that. So I set out to find maybe a retiring oral surgeon who had a very good reputation, who was on the periphery of kind of where I already had relationships, but not so close. Northern New Jersey is a pretty dense area. My county has over 1 million people, and you can be 9 miles away and be in an entire different referral base. So I found this situation. I found an associate to fill that office. I didn't need to buy another office because I couldn't staff it, and I didn't need to have another associate because I didn't have the work for him in my office. But I had this opportunity to bring these two concepts together, and that was our second office, Westwood. So now I started de novo. I made an acquisition. I brought in an associate. A couple of years later, 3 years later, the day that guy became my partner, his name's Sung-Hee Cho, great head and neck surgeon, amazing, smart dude, very complimentary skill set. We bought a third office. He becomes my partner. Now we have 3 offices in Bergen County. Did the same thing, marketed the place, a lot of technology, expanded the scope of services that were offered, and really just put in a younger, more vibrant surgeon who could kind of bring something to the table, who fit appropriately for the community that we were serving. Once we did that with 3 offices in Bergen County, and we were really kind of an established force here, we decided we were going to kind of beta test our concept at a distance where we did not enjoy a good reputation already. And we acquired a practice that was basically kind of left because the gentleman who owned that practice was getting sicker and sicker, and very, very sad story. But basically we went into that area, had a part-time associate who was working part-time for me, part-time for someone else. We gave him that office and he ran with it. And that proved the concept to us that we could do this at a distance. And then over the kind of intervening years, we did another, 7 or 8 offices. And that was what we did. So I don't say I've done it all. I've not done it all. I have so much more to do, but I've done a lot of the different ways that people end up in oral surgery. I've been involved in those things.
And when you kind of made that blueprint for your first office and you said, I want to replicate this, I want to have good systems in place, did you come up with all of that from yourself, or were you working with a coach or consultant?
So I was fortunate. That guy who ended up not really living up to what his initial plan for me was, ended up teaching me retrospectively, taught me a ton in terms of how to interact with my referring doctors, how to set up systems. I own this IP. I called it the optimal patient experience each and every time. So Riverside Oral Surgery was built out because in 2007, when I started, healthcare in northern New Jersey was good quality, but we have a very sophisticated client patient base. I mean, we live right outside New York City. And so they were experiencing very, very high-end hospitality, spas and high-end restaurants, boutique hotels and things like that, but they weren't experiencing it in healthcare. It was a very kind of closed off sliding window, someone who was almost angry that you were standing in front of him or her, typically a her at the time, but that's what it was. And so we kind of open concept everything. And it was very, very important to me as somebody who understands the importance of hospitality, that play a huge role in what we were trying to do. And I kind of work from this concept that, like, of course, the outcomes are going to be great because, of course, we're dealing with very, very highly trained, reputable surgeons. But if we could separate ourselves based on how that patient's experience is, which, again, wasn't something that was talked about as much in 2007, now it's kind of standard discussion. It really wasn't 20 years ago, or almost 20 years ago. And so that was for me kind of what I focused on, what I sought to duplicate. Plus, I believe heavily in marketing, not like advertising, but really kind of establishing yourself in a geography, in a community, establishing that you care about your patients, whether it's calling them every single night or handwriting a thank you note, or being involved in the local little leagues, things that people are doing everywhere now. But it wasn't so commonplace then. I really think to some degree I kind of changed the way things are done in this area anyway. So yeah, that's that.
Yeah, that's excellent. With being an owner of multiple offices, what do you look for in your associates that you're considering to hire and bring on?
For me, what I look most for is somebody who I could sit at a table with and have a conversation with. And I always say that. And again, I said to you before we started taping that I don't really prepare for these things. And it's true. I also don't prepare for the interviews because I really don't care what their pedigree is necessarily. If you're coming out as a well-trained, full scope, I ultimately look for it, what their training is and where they're coming from and all of that. But for me, the primary thing is, can I sit across from you? Can we relate to one another? Do you get it? If you look at my ads for surgeons, it always says do you get it? Do you understand what it takes to deliver the optimal patient experience each and every time? And it really is who you are as a human being. So can you look me in the eyes? Can we speak about things that are important other than dentistry and oral surgery? Are you compassionate? Are you an honest person? These types of things are far more important. Everyone can learn to take out teeth. You do a lot of teeth, you're going to be a fairly decent exodontist. You're going to see fewer and fewer complications as you get on in your career. You're going to be able to handle more and more things. You're going to identify your passion, and you're going to do more of that. You can do less of the things you don't like to do, and all of those things. But the key is are you a good human? And I can't even overstate that. I mean, that's really, to me, what I look for. I also, it's just going to come off a little bit boomerish for someone your age. And I say that totally respectfully. There's something to be said about someone who's willing to take a leap and pay their dues a little bit, right? I think my generation was all about paying dues and really didn't live until we were able to do things later on in life. And to some degree, that's probably not the right philosophy. Many people in your generation are more living that life without really yet having I'm being real, right? Without really having earned it yet, for real. But I think that there's something to be said about someone who wants to get their hands dirty and who wants to really kind of understand how things work, and people who are willing to do a little bit more maybe than that are asked of them, because in the end, it ends up yielding so much more for them, so much more. That's a huge, I think, maybe difference in a lot of the candidates we're seeing now. A lot of people I don't want to take call, I don't want to do this. It's a lot of I don't want this. It's why don't we see what you like? Let's see. I'm already in this, without sounding like an asshole, I'm already in this position in my life. I've done it. I've paid my dues. I've done whatever, and I'm still there. I'm still getting there in the morning before everyone, leaving. I'm sitting here on a Friday at 4. I'm done. I've been done with patients for an hour. This is what I do. I'm happy to do it. I love it. I mean, I don't expect everyone to be as passionate about it as I am, but a little bit more than is asked tends to go a long way.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So we've talked kind of about the business side of things, a little bit about the clinical. But when it comes to managing all of your different endeavors, how do you go about dispersing your time also between like your family life and everything?
So just for like a little background on that, I'm married to my wife, who I met in undergrad in Syracuse. We didn't start dating until I was a first-year dental student. She was a senior, but I met her in undergrad. I have two daughters. As I said, I have a daughter who's a rising junior in Ann Arbor, and a daughter who's going to be a senior in high school. I think she wants to go to Syracuse, actually, hopefully, fingers crossed. And so they are, of course, the most important things in the world to me. But my business is like a third child. I mean, really, Riverside Oral Surgery, now Max, are like, I am so much like a part of what that's all about, plus Bloody Tooth Guy. I don't really separate. I know there's this concept of like work-life balance. I don't have any of that. I do have a harmony, if you will. I have a work-life harmony because for me, it very much works that my life and my business are intertwined with one another. I'm comfortable with that. Not everybody is, and that's totally fair. It really is. But for me, I balance it because I know no other way. I am a workaholic. I love what I do, so it's not really work. I mean, sometimes it feels like work, but most of the time it's not. I have an exceptional team of people who do the things that I need, that I can't do well or don't want to do or don't have the skill set for. I mean, I'm very, I don't want to say I'm typical, but I'm typical of a kind of a founder entrepreneurial mentality type of guy. I'm a little bit of a creative. I come at my surgery from a creative side. I come at my business from a creative side. I am not a bottom line numbers guy. And so for me, it was very, very important to see that early, know what I do well and know what I don't do well. Bring in those people, like I said earlier, but with Cho, like with complementary skill sets, but a shared vision and a strong desire to build together as a team, hopefully with low ego. I have people who have been here with me since before Riverside, and since Riverside was created and conceived of, I have people who are here with me, and I'm proud of that. I've also, in my history of my practices, there's only been one associate who's ever left, and he left in the middle of COVID to go to San Diego, and I don't fault him in any way. So like, I have people around me who stick by me, I think because I treat them with decency and humanity, and I try to be great, and not that I'm always great, I'm a little crazy, but it works.
Yeah. Yeah. I like what you had to say there. And starting your online brand, when did you do that? And why have you been passionate about it?
Are we talking about Bloody Tooth Guy?
Yes.
Yeah. So it all happened here where I'm sitting right now. It was February 20th, 2015, which happens to be my second daughter's birthday, not 2015, but February 20th. And we were sitting here, Cho and I, and we were talking about Dr. Pimple Popper. And we were talking about the fact that it's odd that people like to see that stuff. And I said, well, maybe if they like to see pimples being popped, they maybe also would like to see bloody teeth. And I really had no clue. I really didn't I mean, I had my own personal Instagram because I had teenage kids or maybe preteen kids. But I didn't really know what to expect. So I really daily was taking pictures of broken bloody teeth and posting them. So if you look at my feed and you go all the way back 8 years or however many years, you see just pictures of like my blue bib with pictures of bloody teeth. As Instagram evolved, I evolved, and I kind of saw little trends, and I understood that they were looking for content, and if you gave them the content they were looking for vis-a-vis video or whatever, as the stories evolved and whatever, that they would push those things. In my career, in my Bloody Tooth Guy career, I never once paid for a follower, never did any shady stuff like that. So it's all organic growth. Nowadays, organic growth in our space has slowed almost to a halt because our stuff does not get shown because of, I don't want to say censorship, it is censorship, but in the sense that they're trying to protect the viewership from things that they deem to be, offensive, like bloody things. So our stuff isn't getting pushed out there, but I have a very, very strong, loyal following of followers who engage with my content across the world. And the vast majority of my followers are young, surgically minded dentists generally from across the world, like I said, and some people who are into bloody teeth, but most people who are like dental professionals. And so my content has evolved because I realize what people want, not in a way where I'm trying to kind of manipulate it, but like they want to see techniques and what I'm doing in a certain case, or how I flap, or how I section a tooth, or what my instrumentation is, or whatever. And so I give them that. And if I had more time and I had more bandwidth, and maybe if I had a higher executive function, I would create a real continuing education Bloody Tooth Guy Academy or something like that, to have people really kind of learn, because I do think the best way to learn is through experience and with people who are actually doing it. I'm in the office. I mean, you asked this, and this is kind of an answer to that question. I'm in the office seeing patients 3.5 days a week. So despite the fact that I have all these offices, and despite the fact that I have a family, despite the fact that I have Bloody Tooth Guy and I do podcasts and all this kind of stuff, I'm in with patients most of my time during the day. And so I love it. I love doing dental surgery. I love all of the surgery, but again, this is what I've been doing most of. And so I balance my time by not making time for anything but what I like to do, which is everything that I
Yeah, that's the way to do it. Don't waste your time if you're not passionate about it, especially at the stage that you're at. I get it. Maybe the CE could be your next endeavor 5-10 years down the line.
Who knows? Maybe. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
you never know.
You never know.
So, for anyone listening that's currently in dental school or even pre-dental and they know or think they want to do oral surgery, what kind of advice would you have for someone that's going into residency or in dental school?
So in dental school, if you're interested, if you know definitively you're interested in oral surgery, and I get this question a lot, like, should I go into ortho or oral surgery or this or that? And I think, like, if you're into surgery and you're going into surgery for the right reasons, being that you love surgery and you understand the toll it takes on you and the commitment you need to make to really excel in it, then what you need to do is position yourself to have opportunities after dental school. I tell this to my kids when it came to undergrad or whatever it is. It's like, you just need to put yourself in a position where you have opportunities, where you can make the choice. So frankly, the unfortunate reality of that is that you have to do really well in dental school, grade-wise. You have to do well on your exams. And you have to network, because networking is a huge part of everything in the world. And if people don't believe that, trust me, it's a huge part of everything in the world. Things like externships and just going down to the oral surgery clinic and spending time and learning and listening. This is an example of doing more than is asked of you. Most people after dental school, they go home, they go have a couple of drinks, they relax, whatever it is. But if you really want to go into oral surgery, go to the oral surgery clinic, go to the residency program that's associated with the dental school that you attend. Those are the opportunities you cannot pass up, because you're really then learning. You're getting behind the scenes. You're seeing people for who they are, not just this concept of this oral and maxillofacial surgeon, which as an under dental school student, you see as a different thing. I mean, I look at it, it's funny to me, like, it's a joke. But when I was a dental school student, one of my partners now was a guy named Rich Stern, took my wisdom teeth out. He was a senior resident at Bellevue. I was a dental student at NYU. And I thought, like, this guy is the best guy in the world. I love him. He is one of the best guys in the world. But he was, respect, he was like 29 years old at the time. Like, I thought he had already excelled, like, far in his career. The point is I learned who he was as a person. I love him. He is now a business partner of mine and a friend. But the fact is like, just learn, open your eyes, do as much as you can. And of course, kick ass in dental school.
And as for residency, the grind that comes with that, I mean, in dental school, we spent 2 weeks at the hospital with the OMFS residents, and it was very apparent that was not the path for me. But for people that are going into that, I know it's a really rigorous time. So what advice would you have for the residents?
For the residents, I think you get out of residency what you put into residency, like most things. But I think for the residents, it's really kind of listen to those who came before you, try as much as you can to find a life balance, because I do think, in terms of mental health, that's very important nowadays. In particular, we did not focus on that at all. We were there all the time, and it was not not great. I do think it makes you more resilient, and maybe that makes you a better human doctor. I don't know, but there's something to be said about like balancing in that way. Like when you're not at the hospital and you're in it and intensely in it, take some time and spend time with your friends and enjoy or whatever. But in terms of getting the most out of residency, seek out what you need. Like learn from the people who are really doing what you want to do. Like anything in life, really take advice from those who are in the positions that you want to see yourself, or at least you perceive you want to see yourself in.
Yeah, that's great. And thank you for all of the insight you've given today about your journey so far. I mean, you've accomplished a lot, and it seems like even though you're far in your career, it's kind of only the beginning from here. You've got so many more things you want to do. So that's wonderful. And I will recommend everyone checks out your Instagram if they haven't yet.
Thank you so much, Haley. I really appreciate it. I mean, I wish you all the best. Really, anything that anybody needs, they can reach out to me. They can email me. My personal email is jma@Riverside Oral Surgery. They could DM me at Bloody Tooth Guy. I'm happy to answer questions. It's what I do, and it's actually another thing I'm passionate about, kind of building the bridge for the next generation, I think is tremendously important.